Mhm. Assalamu alaikum everyone, Samir did reaction back with another reaction, and this time we're gonna reacting to how uh 16 billion needle brand from Indonesia become Nigerian nation. This the blueprint. Is I talking about Noodle and do me? What happened to this? One, what's this number like? 1 billion? 6 billion? What's this? $1 billion. Wow! Let's go. My name is Samir from Algeria, North Africa, وتمرون continuity reaction. And they have depression and anxiety attack. مرة time بتديله that alhamdulillah. 4 time make reaction in YouTube, 4 time being in home, 4 time being like a job, like I have no job, nothing. I just YouTube here, so yeah. 3, 2, 1, and it is coming right now. Let's check it together. Oh my god, I can't believe this. Like $6 billion of undo me. It's crazy.
You may have never heard of Indomie, but if you live in Nigeria, Indonesia, or anywhere across parts of Africa, the Middle East, or Southeast Asia, chances are you've eaten it more than once this week. Indomie sells in over 90 countries. And in Nigeria alone, over 4.5 billion packs are consumed every year. That makes Nigeria not just a major market, but the biggest consumer of Indomie outside of Indonesia. The brand's parent company, Indofood, is valued at over $6 billion. It's one of Asia's largest food manufacturers. Its supply chain spans flour milling, palm oil, packaging, seasoning, and distribution. And its most famous product, the instant noodle, has become a staple meal for millions. But this isn't just a story about selling cheap food at scale. It's about how a Southeast Asian company entered a West African market, built manufacturing from scratch, adapted its product to local taste, and embedded itself so deeply into culture that it's no longer seen as foreign. This is how Indomie became Nigeria's national dish, and how Indofood turned instant noodles into one of the most underappreciated business empires in the world. The story begins in Indonesia in the early 1970s. At the time, the country was dealing with food security challenges, rapid urban migration, and a need for cheap, convenient meals. Instant noodles were just starting to gain popularity, mostly through imports. In 1972, Indofood launched Indomie, short for Indonesian Mie or Indonesian noodles. It was backed by the Salim Group, one of Indonesia's most powerful business conglomerates, and it wasn't long before the product took off. In 1982, Indomie introduced mie goreng, a dry noodle version inspired by traditional Indonesian street food. It came with a packet of oil, soy sauce, and seasoning instead of a soup base. It felt more flavorful, more indulgent, and it quickly became a bestseller. With local dominance established, Indofood started exporting. By the late 1980s, Indomie reached West Africa, including Nigeria. At first, it was just one of many imported goods, available mostly in supermarkets and specialty stores. But within a few years, demand started to rise, especially among students and low-income workers. In 1995, the brand made a critical decision. Instead of continuing to ship finished product from Indonesia, it set up its first factory in Nigeria, under a local subsidiary called Dufil Prima Foods. That decision changed the trajectory of the brand entirely. Local manufacturing meant no import tariffs, lower prices, and more control over production. It also allowed the company to respond directly to local preferences. Nigerian consumers wanted stronger spice blends, different textures, and flavors that matched local dishes. So Indomie adapted. They introduced flavors like onion chicken, pepper chicken, and jollof-inspired variants. They re-engineered the recipe to fit the Nigerian palate, not the Indonesian one, and they began positioning it not as a snack, but as a full meal. The company also built out one of the most extensive food distribution networks in West Africa. Trucks reached deep into towns and rural communities. Indomie was made available not just in stores, but on street corners, in kiosks, and through informal vendors. Availability was a strategy, not an outcome. Marketing played a role too. Dufil targeted schools and young consumers directly. They sponsored competitions, events, and built brand recognition early, not just through ads, but by embedding into student culture. In Nigeria, many children grew up not just eating Indomie, but learning to cook with it. For a generation, it was the first dish they learned to make on their own. As the customer base matured, the brand matured with them, but the price remained within reach. Indomie was never positioned as aspirational. It was positioned as dependable, affordable, constant. By the early 2000s, Indomie had become a staple across urban and rural Nigeria. And it wasn't just one product. It was a product line, different pack sizes, different flavors, and at one point, smaller mini-me packs designed specifically for low-income households and school lunches. In parallel, Dufil invested in vertical integration. They didn't want to rely on third-party suppliers. They built their own seasoning plants, packaging facilities, and flour mills. That gave them cost advantages and supply stability, especially important in a country where infrastructure is often unreliable. By building locally and owning their supply chain, Indomie became more than a food brand. It became a domestic manufacturing powerhouse. The results speak for themselves. By 2016, Nigeria was among the top 15 instant noodle consuming countries in the world and number 1 in Africa. Indomie had over 70% of the Nigerian noodle market. Today, it has multiple factories and more than a dozen production lines in Nigeria alone. But the most significant thing about Indomie's success isn't the sales. It's the perception. Indomie is not seen as an Indonesian brand in Nigeria. It's seen as Nigerian. It's part of the culture, part of the household. It appears in memes, in songs, in
crazy,
slang. Boarding school students eat it daily. Families stretch it with vegetables or eggs. Street vendors serve it with pepper sauce and meat. It's not an import, it's part of the fabric. And it's not just Nigeria. Indomie is produced in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, and other markets, each with local operations tailored to local preferences. But the Nigeria playbook remains the most successful. It shows what happens when a company doesn't just enter a market, but commits to it. Indomie localized the product, built the infrastructure priced for the market, created brand loyalty from childhood, and stayed consistent for decades. Most companies entering emerging markets aim for growth. Indomie aimed for permanence. Its business strategy, from vertical integration to distribution to cultural embedding, offers a blueprint that's rarely studied but widely applicable, especially for brands looking to scale in price-sensitive, infrastructure-limited markets. It also shows that scale isn't always about premium. Sometimes the biggest wins come from understanding everyday needs and meeting them over and over again. Indomie didn't become a billion-dollar brand by being trendy. It became one by being everywhere, every day, for everyone.
Oh, this story about Indomie, like, wow, everyone, here in Algeria, they eating this all time, boy, all time, morning, in the night, any time they eating this, but this is not okay with me because I don't like this. If you are not like that, comment and tell me why I'll hit that. If you don't, smash the button, subscribe to notification, follow me TikTok, Instagram. It's your choice. Thank you so much for watching. Peace, salam.